There's a gravity to temptation, an attractive pull that overrides the friction of your resistance. There is not a person who has ever cheated on a spouse who didn't feel that implacable pull accelerating faster and faster toward the object of desire with the internal voice that counsels discipline, fidelity, the sanctity of the marriage vows getting fainter and fainter as it is left further and further behind. There's not a person who had a third or fifth or 10th drink, or gambled away the last dollar of his week's paycheck, or ate a second pint of ice cream who didn't surrender to the same inexorable power. Sometimes we learn from those battles, with the hangover, or the numbers on the scale, or the heartbreak of a spouse being enough to set us right. Sometimes, however, there is no lesson learned, or at least no lesson heeded. Sometimes instead, we're powerless to not repeat the behavior. Perhaps we intend to behave. We promise ourselves and the other people in our world that we'll behave, but always we fail. The behavior becomes a habit, the habit becomes a compulsion, and the compulsion becomes the life-wrecking disease that is addiction. The numbers are scary enough. In the 12 months ending in May 2020, more than 81,000 Americans died of drug overdoses, the highest ever recorded in a 12-month period. That's 222 people a day. Roughly 21 to 29% of people who are prescribed opioids for chronic pain wind up misusing them. A force multiplier in those troubling numbers might be the COVID-19 pandemic, with lockdown and related stressors exacerbating the incidence of seeking relief in addictive pharmacology. The disruption to daily life due to the COVID-19 pandemic has hit those with substance use disorder hard, said CDC Director Robert Redfield, MD. The opioids are hardly the only class of chemical that's taking such an awful toll. More than 20 million Americans, 12 and older, had some kind of substance use disorder in 2019, according to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. Among those, 12% simultaneously battled both alcohol and drug use disorders. And among Americans with mental health disorders, 9.5 million also have a substance abuse problem, perhaps seeking relief from emotional pain in alcohol or pills, perhaps pushing toward the intoxicants by a simple lack of impulse control, which can be a symptom of mental health conditions such as oppositional defiant disorder. Either way, they suffer doubly. Chemicals, of course, are not the only things that can draw us in and seize our will. The concept of behavioral addictions to sex, online gaming, pornography, gambling, shopping, and food is controversial among addiction specialists. However, brain scans of problem gamblers show the same regions lighting up in the same way that alcohol and drug cravings do in an addicted person, driving the same cycle of craving, binging, remorse, and repeat. No one knows the exact cause of addictions, why some people are chained by them while others can thread the needle of enjoying some indulgences, but pulling up short before some becomes too much. Genes surely play a role, with studies showing, for example, that identical twins are far likelier to share addictions than fraternal twins, and availability matters. There are few shopping addicts in impoverished communities, few alcoholics in dry counties. Treatment and recovery differ from person to person, but experts agree that it should be multifaceted and ongoing. Medications can help. The 12-step model works. Even the surgical intervention of deep brain stimulation may have a place. What is consistent among addicted people from era to era has been the groping for a cure, the desperation to turn the brain back to a seat of pleasure again. There are answers, but there is much darkness to endure before the light breaks again.